The story begins with a boy named Lloyd standing silently in front of the ruins of his city, his eyes hollow and drained of all hope. An S-ranked witch named Marin finds him there and hugs him from behind while blaming herself for the tragedy and vows never to repeat the same mistake she made with her first student. From that day forward, she takes Lloyd into her care and begins training him in the ways of magic. Marin starts Lloyd's training with fire magic by demonstrating a simple flame spell and telling him that he won't be getting any dinner unless he figures out how to cast it as well. Lloyd practices diligently for hours, and just before sunset, he finally manages to create a small flame. Excited, he proudly shows Marin his achievement, but instead of praising him, she exhales gently, snuffing out the flame, and then roasts him with a burst of fire to make it clear he still has a long way to go. The next day, Marin teaches him some water magic by sweeping her foot along the ground to summon a small spout of water. When it's Lloyd's turn, he manages to dampen the earth just slightly and looks quite pleased with himself. But Marin isn't impressed, and to show him what proper water magic looks like, she dumps a massive wave over his head with a single snap of her fingers. As time goes on, Lloyd continues to give his best effort in learning new spells from all elements, while Marin delivers harsh punishments whenever he falls short. By winter, Lloyd has improved so much that he can shape a snow sculpture of Marin with little effort, but as usual, Marin takes control of the sculpture and uses it to grab Lloyd and dramatically enlarges it to demonstrate what true mastery over ice really looks like. Eventually, the sculpture collapses and Lloyd tumbles into the snow, but that only makes him want to push himself harder. One morning, Marin is lying on the couch, suffering from a hangover from drinking too much the previous night. Lloyd comes in to check on her, and wanting to help, he places his hand on her forehead and uses his healing magic to ease the pain. Within seconds, Marin feels better and sits up with a quiet sigh and gives him a warm hug to thank him for the healing. For a moment, Lloyd thinks he's finally made her proud, but she immediately grabs his arm, says it's time to resume his training, and drags him back outside like nothing ever happened. This routine continues for several months until one evening, Marin is reading an old book that brings back some painful memories, and just as she's about to put it away, Lloyd knocks on the door to call her for dinner, and the book ends up slipping from her hands and lands in front of Lloyd. Lloyd bends down to pick it up, but the moment his fingers touch it, ancient knowledge floods into his mind and knocks him out cold. Marin quickly rushes to his side and realizes that he has the traits of the Chosen One. After that, she carries him to bed and places a soft kiss on his forehead, casting a gentle spell to keep his power under control. She remembers the pain of what happened before and refuses to let him grow arrogant with his powers like she once did. The following day, Lloyd's training continues, and this time Marin takes him into the forest to practice his white magic, where she explains that it's meant to support others. Lloyd focuses his power on a single fruit and manages to make it ripen and turn juicy, earning a quiet nod of approval from Marin. To show him how much further he still has to go, she places her hand on the tree and casts her own spell, making the entire tree bloom with fresh leaves and fruit. That night, while helping him study, Marin tells him about orcs who use rare magic to control monsters, but when Lloyd comes across a passage about ancient magic and asks about it, her expression hardens and she tells him it's something he doesn't need to learn. During one of their drills, Marin tells Lloyd to summon a magic staff in an instant, but when he reacts too slowly, she hits him with her own staff and tells him that no matter how strong he gets, he can't let himself get lazy. Lloyd listens carefully and promises to stay, and Rena blocks one of its punches with her shield, surprised at how easily she stopped it. This gives the attack mage enough time to bind the Cyclops with her vines, and without questioning his sudden power boost, Alan charges in to finish the monster with a strong final blow, fully convinced the victory was all his doing. But Rena starts suspecting that Lloyd had something to do with it. With the Cyclops defeated, the party heads back to town, where Alan is welcomed like a hero, with people cheering his name and praising him for taking down a monster no one else could beat. The reward for the quest turns out to be massive, but when they return to the mansion, Alan pushes just 5 gold coins towards Lloyd and says it's because he's only a D-rank rookie, but Lloyd doesn't argue and quietly takes the money. Later, when Alan raises a toast to celebrate the victory, Lloyd excuses himself, saying he's not really into drinking. Maya, the red-haired mage, seems offended by his choice to leave, but Alan brushes it off and says it doesn't matter, since they can always find another white mage, and it's not like Lloyd made much of a difference anyway. Later that night, the cloaked man from before arrives at Marin's door, and she immediately recognizes his voice as Will. She invites him in and asks about Lloyd, and he tells her that Lloyd made it to the town safely and has already joined Alan's hero party. Marin thanks him for checking in and says it was time for Lloyd to get some real experience, as long as he doesn't grow overconfident like she once did. Will pauses for a moment, then asks if she still regrets what happened back then. Marin's expression tightens as she remembers the day everything went wrong. She hadn't expected the demon lord to destroy himself just to get his hands on the grimoire, and that single mistake ended in the destruction of the entire village, killing everyone nearby, including herself. But in those final moments, their companion Sybil used forbidden ancient magic to reverse the damage and bring everyone back, though it cost him his life. Ever since that day, Marin hasn't stopped blaming herself. Back in town, Lloyd continues supporting the hero party from the sidelines, quietly casting buffs during battles whenever things start to go south. Thanks to his magic, the team keeps winning fight after fight, always coming out on top with barely a scratch, even though none of them realize how much of that is because of him. During one of their tougher quests, the group finds themselves struggling against a powerful minotaur, and just as it's about to land a heavy blow on Alan, Lloyd uses his magic on Rena, giving her just enough strength to intercept the attack and knock the monster back. That moment gives Sheena time to heal Alan, while the mage traps the minotaur with her vines, letting Alan finish it off in one clean strike. Later that night, Rena is sitting in her room reading a book on defense magic when Alan walks in and asks what she's doing. She explains that lately, monster attacks haven't been hitting her shield as hard as before, and she wants to understand why. Alan laughs and says he's noticed the same thing, but just figured his natural talent was finally showing. Rena, however, points out that he hasn't trained at all, so something doesn't add up. Meanwhile, deep in the forest that night, a group of guards get attacked by a giant earth golem as they were finishing up their patrol. The next morning, the captain of the guard visits Alan and asks for his help, explaining that the patrol unit was wiped out by a golem near the border. He also mentions that the area is known for black market activity, and it might be linked. Alan agrees without hesitation, rushing it off, saying he apologizes for spacing out during such a serious battle, but instead of getting mad, he asks how her sister Sylvie is doing. Hearing this, Clum's face turns grim, and she quietly says that she has to leave the party. Around the same time, Lloyd was dragging himself through day 3 of trying to find a new party when you spotted him in the guild and pulled him straight to her group without giving him a chance to ask what's going on. When she returns, the others are surprised to see her back so soon, assuming there's no way she found a white mage that quickly. But before anyone can say anything, she points at Lloyd and says he's the one joining their team. The thing is, she never explained any of this to Lloyd, and he just stands there confused. Yu freezes for a second when she realizes she doesn't even know his name, so Lloyd introduces himself to Dagus the tank, Cross the archer, and Scylla the mage. Yu flashes a proud smile and says she's the leader, but Lloyd quietly reminds her that he never agreed to join their party. The others aren't surprised, since this isn't the first time Yu has dragged someone in without warning. Cross says they should probably cancel the quest, since there's no way they can complete it without Clum, and it's not like some random white mage can take her place. Even Silica gently asks Yu to let it go, but Yu refuses and says she's not turning her back on a client who needs help. Lloyd suggests letting another party handle the quest, but Silica explains that it's an A-rank job and none of the other A-rank teams are available. Their party is S-rank, so they qualify, but without a registered white mage, they can't accept the quest. Guild rules don't allow temporary substitutes, and with no time left, they have no options. Lloyd wants to help, but Alan's words keep echoing in his head, and he can't imagine someone like him belonging in a party like this. While he's still doubting himself, Yu says they're good to go if Lloyd turns out to be strong, and without waiting for a response, she drags him out to a clearing and tells him to show them what he can do. Lloyd freezes, already imagining their disappointed faces when they see how weak he is. Dagus notices his hesitation and tells Yu to give him a clear task. She asks Lloyd to cast enhancement magic on the whole team at once. Lloyd blinks in confusion, thinking it's too easy, but she insists that's all he has to do. When he asks if she's serious, Yu nods and says if he can manage it, she'll let him join. Lloyd quietly summons his staff out of thin air and casts the spell without chanting. The others stare, not just because of the buff, but because of how he pulled his staff out of thin air like Houdini and how fast he cast it. At first, Yu doesn't feel anything, so she decides to test it herself, and with one clean swing of her sword, she cuts down a giant tree like it's made of soft butter. The whole party falls silent. Cross says his body feels lighter, and Dagus wonders if that was really a multicast. Lloyd admits he didn't just use strength buff and added defense, speed, and vitality as well, just in case. The others continue staring at him in silence, and Lloyd mistakes it for disappointment. He quickly apologizes, saying he knows he's not strong enough to replace a real S-rank white mage, and turns to leave. But Yu grabs his arm and tells him to stop because there's no way she's letting someone like him walk away now. After seeing what Lloyd can do, Yu starts asking him a few questions, and during the conversation, he mentions that he used to be part of Alan's party, which is one of the only 4 hero parties recognized throughout the kingdom. Lloyd quickly adds that it wasn't a big deal, explaining that they only brought him in because they thought he had potential, someone as dependable as him. Lloyd says he still doesn't feel worthy, but Clum tells him to stop overthinking and just follow his heart. That evening, the group gathers back at the tavern. Silica and Dagus are still stunned that Lloyd actually cured Sylvie, though his constant self-doubt makes Yu smack him on the head. He admits he's a little sad Clum won't be coming back, but the others remind him that her happiness matters more than anything else. Hearing their kind words and seeing how genuinely grateful everyone is, Lloyd slowly starts to let go of the bitterness from his past. Remembering Clum's advice, he finally listens to what he truly wants and asks if they'd still be willing to have him in the party. Turns out, they'd all been hoping he would ask. So when he does, they welcome him without hesitation. Yu officially declares him one of them and announces that they're throwing a welcome party whether he likes it or not. The party kicks off with everyone chugging a beer mug, and Yu announces that dinner's on them and tells him to eat as much as he wants. It's the first time anyone in the city has treated him this kindly, and Lloyd doesn't hold back. He digs in with wide eyes, clearing plate after plate, completely blown away by how good everything tastes. The others watch in confusion, wondering why he looks so amazed by such a normal tavern meal. To them, it's nothing special. But for Lloyd, the flavors are incredible, and it makes him wonder if everything he ate growing up was just bad. When they ask what kind of food he used to eat, Lloyd says it was mostly forest herbs and mushrooms, with the occasional monster meat when he managed to catch something. Sadly, his master's cooking wasn't much better than the ingredients. Yu laughs and asks what his master was like, since anyone who taught him magic that strong must have been impressive. Silica asks if she was a white mage too, but Lloyd admits he never really thought to ask. From what he remembers, she was more of a combat mage, always blowing things up during her experiments. Silica is surprised someone like that could have even taught Lloyd support magic, especially since his master isn't a white mage. She wonders aloud if it must have been amazing to be her student, but Lloyd shuts that idea down right away. Just thinking about those memories sends a chill down his spine as flashes of brutal training sessions fill his head. Cross jokes that his master sounds like a pretty intense teacher, but Lloyd insists she had a soft side too, remembering the rare moments when she hugged him without setting him on fire. Once things settle down, Yu immediately steers the conversation back to business and starts talking strategy, but Dagaz reminds her that Lloyd still doesn't know what the actual quest is. Yu admits she kind of skipped over the details, claiming she's not exactly great at explaining things, though Dagaz tells her to quit slacking off and act like a proper leader for once. She sighs, pulls out the quest sheet, and Dagaz goes over it instead. Their mission is to stop a group of monsters that have been tearing through farmland and destroying crops. The strange thing is that it's not just one kind of monster. Lloyd raises an eyebrow, saying that's almost impossible since different species never team up, but Dagaz shrugs and says that's what the client reported. Yu tightens her grip on the table and says no matter what, they have to help the villagers. Cross agrees but points out that if a whole swarm shows up, fighters like him and Yu won't be very useful since they specialize in single target damage. Silica mentions that while her wide-range spells are strong, she doesn't have enough mana to keep blasting non-stop. She glances at Lloyd, hoping he can pick up the slack, but he admits with some hesitation a break. As he wanders into the woods to gather firewood, he notices a golden fruit growing on a nearby tree, just like the one Marin once used to demonstrate healing magic. He takes a bite and starts remembering her again, but a sudden scream snaps him back to reality. The screams come from Yu and Silica, who are cornered between a massive basilisk and the edge of a waterfall. Without wasting a second, Lloyd bolts toward the cliff and launches a fire spell mid-sprint, sliding down the slope without hesitation. His fireball slams straight into the basilisk, drawing its attention away from the girls. He shouts for them to get back to solid ground while positioning himself between them and the monster. In one smooth motion, he summons both Yu's sword and Silica's staff from his storage, tossing the weapons toward them while casting quick healing spells to buff their bodies. The snake lunges forward, ready to sink its teeth into Lloyd, but Yu dives in and slices the creature in half before her feet even touch the ground. The basilisk thrashes wildly in its final moments, but Silica finishes the job by launching a massive fireball that roasts the monster in a single hit. The spell lands so hard that even she looks stunned by her own strength, made stronger by Lloyd's buff. After the fight ends, Yu asks Lloyd to store her sword again, but as she hands it over, her towel slips off. She gives him a solid slap for accidentally seeing too much, and Lloyd just quietly accepts his fate. Back at camp, Lloyd begins teaching the teen how to use storage magic with a quick and simple explanation. But somehow everyone struggles miserably. Even after hours of practice, they just flail around like they're trying to grab invisible soap. Lloyd starts to doubt himself, thinking he must be a terrible teacher, but the others reassure him they just need more time to figure it out. Then, out of nowhere, Silica says the word storage out loud and the spell finally activates. That's when it clicks. Unlike Lloyd, who can cast without chanting, the rest of them need to speak the spell to use it. With that solved, Silica manages to get the hang of it by sunset. As night falls and the fire dims, a heavy silence settles across the forest. While the others sleep, Lloyd stays on watch beside Yu. She quietly sits down next to him since there are no monsters nearby and softly thanks him for sticking with her chaotic team. Lloyd admits he wasn't doing much better before he joined them. Yu then confesses she still feels bad for dragging him into everything without asking, which makes Lloyd remember the way she got serious earlier when their client came up. Curious, he asks why she's so determined to see the mission through. Yu lets out a quiet laugh and says it's because it reminds her of home. She tells him that when she was a kid, a monster horde wiped out her entire village, and she was the only one who survived. The memory still haunts her, and seeing another remote village on the verge of collapse stirred up those old feelings. Since the town is cut off from the rest of the region, if their fields are destroyed, they'll run out of food and have no way to get help. She doesn't want to let that happen to anyone else. Before she can say more, Lloyd suddenly tenses. He senses something drawing near and immediately tells Yu to wake the others. They step out from the camp and soon spot it, a group of powlerks crawling through the underbrush, just like the quest mentioned. While trying to figure out where the insects are headed, Lloyd's eyes catch a second swarm heading directly toward them. He signals the others to quietly fall back, but of course, Yu steps on a dry stick that snaps louder than thunder. The sound echoes through the trees, and the three closest powlerks whip around. Silica says she's excited for the day. He finally opens up about his cool backstory. Outside the tent, Daggers tells Lloyd they need to talk. Lloyd says he can't leave his post, so Cross steps in and offers to keep watch instead. Daggers leads Lloyd into the trees and sets up a small alarm that rings when monsters get close. He says this is how they used to stay safe before Lloyd joined. Lloyd looks uneasy and says he won't be able to cast Detect if he's asleep. Daggers shrugs and says that's fine. They don't need magic for everything. What they need is their healer to rest for once. Daggers looks a little offended and asks if Lloyd really doesn't trust him. Lloyd quickly says the alarm's solid and he just wants to be extra careful. But Daggers brings up what everyone's been thinking. Lloyd always takes night watch alone, never leans on the team, and that kind of says it all. Lloyd doesn't know how to respond. He remembers Marin saying he's helpless alone and Alan calling him a burden. So he admits he pushes himself hard because he doesn't want to drag anyone down. Daggers sighs and tells him that's exactly what teammates are for. Nobody expects him to be perfect. The whole point of a party is to cover for each other. Lloyd smacks his forehead, realizing how obvious that sounds now. Daggers actually laughs and says he can't believe Lloyd made it this far without learning that. Then Lloyd quietly asks if it's really okay to be the weak link sometimes. Daggers claps a hand on his shoulder and tells him he's not weak, just tired. That night, for the first time, Lloyd lies down beside a team he can trust, and for once, the weight in his chest feels a little lighter. The next morning, Lloyd quietly walks over to Yu and finally works up the nerve to ask if she can fetch him some water. The moment she hears that, her face lights up with joy, while Lloyd just stands there smiling awkwardly. Without missing a beat, she grabs a bucket and drags him into the forest with her, completely ignoring the fact that all three of their teammates are secretly sneaking behind them, beaming with pride like proud parents spying on their kid's first date. Far away in a sleek stone mansion, a cloaked spy kneels before his purple-haired master, Michael, and delivers an update. The magic stones have been planted exactly as instructed, creating a perfect trail that lets Michael pinpoint a key location on the map. His eyes narrow with interest. Michael then asks about the adventurers stationed in Ishtar. The spy confirms that most of the strong ones were sent off to deal with the monster swarms just like they had planned. Only the weaker fighters remain in town now, aside from the hero's party. Michael clicks his tongue and says it's a shame they couldn't remove the hero completely, but his smile returns. He's eager to see how long the hero's party can stall what's coming next. After that, Michael orders his spy to inform the client that their time has finally come, wearing an evil grin on his ugly face. Meanwhile, back in the forest, Lloyd and the others start to notice how unnaturally quiet the woods are. Cross points out that it's weird they haven't run into a single monster since they left camp. Yu tries to stay positive and asks if it's thanks to Lloyd's magic, but he explains that his spell only detects monsters. It doesn't scare them off. That immediately makes Daggers uneasy, so Lloyd expands his detection range. Just then, he senses something dangerous. Yu quickly asks what it is, and Lloyd reveals there's a massive horde just 2 kilometers ahead. Cross realizes that's exactly the direction they're heading in. Before they can panic, Yu calls for a timeout because she's still trying to wrap her head around the fact that Lloyd's detection everything in its path. Watching in awe, Yu asks what Lloyd did to her magic, and he casually says he just boosted her power and made her casting more efficient. He then turns to Silica and asks if she has enough mana left. She nods and says she can still fire off 5 more spells. Lloyd tells her to switch to wind magic next and rushes over to Cross, who's been waiting for his turn now that the whole area is cloaked in thick smoke from the fire. Using telepathy to link their minds, Lloyd begins feeding Cross the exact positions of every flying monster hidden in the smoke. Now that he can see the flying monsters clearly, Cross starts shooting them down one by one with ease. Lloyd quickly runs back to Silica to finish the final step of his plan, but she tells him she's completely out of mana. Without hesitation, he takes her hand and transfers all of his remaining energy into her. With the boost, Silica casts a final wind spell that puts out the flames spreading through the forest, but the strain knocks her off her feet. Daggers and Yu both cheer when they see the fire dying down. They praise Silica for her quick thinking and thank Lloyd for coming up with such a smart strategy. Lloyd simply smiles and says he was only doing what he could to support the team. While Daggers and Yu move to clean up the last few monsters, Lloyd finally lets himself rest. Dropping onto his back, he stares up at the sky and reflects on how far he still has to go. Even a single battle like this left him completely worn out. At the same time, a blue-haired demi-human boy hears a girl scream as she gets kidnapped, but he fails to catch up with the demon and yells in frustration. Meanwhile, after Yu and Dagus finish cleaning up, Lloyd shares his theory that the mastermind's real target is the city of Ishtar, and they walk right into his trap. After summoning some magic potions to refill his mana, he explains that the plan was to lure all the top-ranking parties out of Ishtar and keep them busy with monsters outside. CoRkuZ argues the city still has the hero and the knight order, so it will not fall that easily. Still, Dagus thinks Lloyd has a point, and CoRkuZ admits the dark magic stone was suspicious. Hearing that, Yu says they are heading back to the city, so Lloyd stores the potions and pulls out his staff to cast speed buffs on the team. With that, he charges off at high speed, and while Yu yells at him to wait, she and the others quickly realize they can run just as fast. Back at the mansion, Michael is enjoying a drink when the demon kidnapper, who is his client, shows up, clearly annoyed when Michael calls him that. Michael smirks and says that Gulist of the Four Heavenly Kings doesn't exactly have a good ring to it. Ignoring that, Gulist informs him that their forces are closing in on Ishtar and everything is going as planned. Michael grins and says their win is basically guaranteed thanks to the girl, and Gulist agrees they need to keep her on their side no matter what. With a sly grin, Michael says she is key to the whole plan, and Gulist chooses to trust the man known as the Demon Lord's right-hand man, even if he does not fully get what he is scheming. Michael replies that he will gladly keep helping as long as he gets paid. With that, Gulist walks off, and Michael heads down to the girl chained up in the dark basement. Like always, he tells her to lend him her power while keeping potions ready to power her magic, and a music player powered by a dark magic stone starts playing, probably to control her mind. Meanwhile, in the forest, Lloyd and the party sprint a long distance before getting tired, so they stop and set up camp to recover their strength. CoRkuZ says they are close to the city, and after drinking potions, Silica at her because it has been a long time since she acted like a real leader. With that said, they slowly approach the cabin and sneak around to a window, but it looks like nobody is inside. Seeing that, Lloyd activates detection again and notices the targets are underground. After he leads them to the right spot, Dagus says they need to find the way down. CoRkuZ simply asks Silica if she can use earth magic. So while the demons blindly continue praying below, Lloyd casts enhancements on the party and Silica casts Sand Pit, which causes the ceiling of the underground room to collapse on the Shady group. Yu quickly jumps in and holds her sword to one man's neck, asking who they are and what they plan to do in their nation. Suddenly, another magician fires a barrage of rocks at her, but she deflects them without breaking a sweat. CoRkuZ shoots the attacker and Lloyd buffs Silica again, allowing her to cast Sand Pit on the rubble they are hiding behind. However, one of the cultists shoots the crumbling stones back at her, and Dagus manages to shield her just in time. With no other option, one of the men breaks away and locks the door behind him, while the others try to ambush Yu from behind. But CoRkuZ shoots them in the leg, letting her swiftly finish them off, leaving just one more. Elsewhere nearby, the demon wraps the demi-human girl in a cocoon and starts to carry her away, but Yu kicks down the door before he can escape. She rushes after him up the stairs, and thanks to Lloyd's buff, she gets ahead of him while the others follow to cut off his retreat and see what is inside the cocoon. As he runs in panic, Yu blocks his path from the front, and when he glances around, he realizes there is nowhere left to run. Lloyd tells him to surrender and start talking, but the demon says he has nothing to share and begins casting a powerful spell. Seeing this, Lloyd quickly raises barriers over the team that shield them from the lightning blast and reflect it right back at the caster. After that, the man drops the cocoon, and Lloyd notes that the girl inside appears to be an orc. Back inside the cabin, Yu feels frustrated that they could not get any useful info from the demon, and when Dagus wonders if the girl might know something, Silica points out that she is probably from the Four's empire, so it is unlikely she was working with demons. After that, Lloyd tries healing her, and the girls are amazed again by how strong his healing magic is, so he mentions that he made this modified version himself. Watching Silica stare in shock, he explains that Marin used to modify spells like that all the time. Before long, the girl slowly opens her eyes, and Yu quickly rushes over and starts flooding her with questions, leaving the girl too confused about what to answer. After a while, the girl says her name is Kureha, and when Yu asks why the demons captured her, Kureha hesitates. So Lloyd steps in and explains that they are adventurers sent to protect a farm from monsters, and that was where he sensed orc magic. Then he looks her in the eyes and tells her he heard that orcs can use magic to control monsters, and asks if the power he sensed came from her. Kureha confirms it without hesitation. Meanwhile, the city guards discover a large magic stone deep in the forest, and the moment one of them touches it, dozens of glowing monster eyes appear in the surrounding bushes. While the first guard is attacked and devoured by the monsters, the second barely escapes with a pack of wolves chasing right behind him. Back at the cabin, Lloyd asks Kureha again if she can really control monsters, and her answer worries him that such dangerous magic actually in no time, but the doubtful looks on everyone's faces says otherwise. Alan asks what their problem is, and one of the mages speaks up that her magic is not nearly that powerful, while the others admit that their strongest spell can only take out a single monster at most. That makes Alan furious as he yells as the least they can do. But right then, Mia speaks up as well to say that her magic power became much weaker a little while ago. Alan is completely shocked upon hearing that and demands to know why she did not mention it earlier, but Mia reveals that all the girls have been struggling with their magic since then. When he asks when it started, Lulu guesses it happened around the time Lloyd left, and Alan immediately blames the girls for tricking him. But Lena fires back and blames him instead for being too busy playing hero and never showing up for training. Everyone is outraged to hear that the hero has been slacking, making him angry, but Lena criticizes him again, which causes him to lose it and throw a punch at her with full power. But Lena effortlessly stops it and calmly advises him to quit his job already. After looking around and seeing everyone giving him cold stares, Alan storms out, crying as he yells that they are on their own. Lena does not even flinch while the other girls feel bad and chase after him. The adventurers are left dumbfounded that the hero is nothing like the legends claim. Right as they begin thinking they should abandon the city and run for it, Lena grabs their attention to declare she has left the hero's party and then asks them to join her in the coming battle. Her charisma wins them over instantly, but before giving them a plan, she first asks if anyone there knows the white mage named Lloyd. At the same time, Lloyd and Kirea discover the magic stone that is disrupting her spell. When he asks if he simply needs to break it, she agrees but explains that the problem is that there are likely a lot more of them scattered across the area, and she cannot regain full control over the monsters until every single one of them is destroyed. Hearing that, she tells Lloyd she can probably sense their locations if she gets close enough, but the area itself is simply too large for her to cover quickly. That is when Lloyd surprises her with his brilliant idea to use his mind-sharing spell to make her sensing range as large as his broken detection spell. After that, he amazes her again by using his invisibility magic while humbly claiming it is not that good since even a weak hit can dispel it, causing Kirea to seriously doubt if he is even human. After that, the two stealthily sneak up to the first magic stone and neutralize it, which immediately causes all of the monsters nearby to leave. As they move toward the next one, an army of adventurers stands ready outside the city walls beside a giant trench, prepared to defend Ishtar with their lives. A knight asks the guild manager if he really thinks this plan will work, but the old man simply replies that he believes in the boy Lena spoke about earlier. A few hours before that moment, she had announced in front of everyone that the real core of the hero's party was neither the Saintess Shainan nor the so-called hero, but rather a humble white mage named Lloyd. The adventurers are confused because Lloyd was supposed to be a useless supporter, so they ask why the hero's party had kicked him out. Lena admits her party was blinded by the hero's title, which is why they never considered that their easy victories came thanks to Lloyd's magic and thought it was their own strength. The guild manager, who saw the hero in full glory firsthand, asks if the impressive power he saw was all due to Lloyd's support magic, and Lena confirms it. Hearing about his